Hi, and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here in Southborough. If you haven't seen this show before, my name is Art Bergeron, and my day job is as an elder law attorney up the street in Westboro at Myrick O'Connell. But this is not about my day job. It's about my friends Frank and Mary and their goal, which is to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And if you're in Southborough, that means you want to stay right here. So you want to know the people you need to know and the programs you need to know about in order to stay right in Southborough. So we have a wonderful guest today, Jim Hegarty, who's going to talk to us a little bit about town meeting and how that's all going to work, because you, among a whole lot of other people, are interested in how that is all going to play out. But first, thank you very much, Pam LeFrancois, for joining us once again from Senior Central there at the Senior Center. So Pam, can you just kind of talk to folks in general about kind of what's going on? I know that it's been constantly changing as we've been kind of playing all this stuff out. So can you just kind of talk about what's going on at the Senior Center and what's to expect? What is new?
Thank you for having me, Arthur. I just want to let people know that the most popular question that we're getting is, when are you opening? Technically, the staff is still here. The staff, some are still working remote, but everybody is moving back to working in the office shortly. And if you need anything from us, just give us a call, leave a message, and we will get back to you immediately. All our phones go directly to our email, so we will respond to any questions that you have right away. As far as when we're opening, new programs will be starting at the end of this month.
Excuse me, Jim, I'm hearing some stuff. I don't know if that's coming from you, from your.
I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Pam. I'm sorry.
Okay, so there's at the end of this month, we will begin programs outside on the lawn. We've got a number of things coming up over the next few months. We will continue with our drive-throughs. We will also continue our Zoom classes, fitness classes, and our cable shows through June. But in the meantime, we will start ramping up those programs outside on the lawn. We've got a full slate of programs scheduled for the summer outside. So we've got some new furniture that's ordered, some tables and chairs so we can spread out. We can do a lot of things. We've got different things planned. We've got ice cream sundaes coming up on the lawn. We've got a number of breakfast programs on the lawn. In the summertime, we've got some food trucks planned. We've got some musical programs. So we've got a lot of things happening. So it's going to be kind of a gradual process, but by the summertime, we should have all of our programs at least up and running outside. And then we'll cross the next bridge when we get there. So
that's right. I mean, that's been the story of the last year, right? You cross the bridge when you get there and you're trying to plan. And who knows, this may change the Senior Center. I mean, you may end up with a lot more things out on the lawn from now on. People could get to really like this, Well,
people like being outside, and I think we may end up keeping some programs in the Zoom format, as well as having, our programs at the Senior Center. So it's a process, but there is a lot happening. So please check out the newsletter. Feel free to give us a call anytime. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
And what's the best number, Pam, to call?
It's 508-229-4453.
So Pam, thank you very much for coming on. We really appreciate kind of these regular updates. I know you're going back to your day job while I talk to Jim a little bit about his.
Well, good to see you, Jim. Take care. Have a good show, you guys. Bye.
Thank you very much. So Jim, I know that the goal here is really to talk about town meeting and what's going on, but can you kind of talk to folks about, what the status of the town clerk's office is and kind of how all of that is working and how you imagine that will continue to play out?
Sure, be glad to. The entire townhouse building is open by appointment only. We have a meeting later this week to see how and when they're going to schedule the reopening. But we've been able to accomplish everything by email and by regular mail with people. And anybody can call us if they have something. We'll come in to meet them and bring them in the office and meet them outside. So we've been able to accomplish all the service we provide to the residents. We've been able to continue to do that. So that's worked out pretty well.
I was just going to say, now you've been doing this now for quite a while. So kind of what's the feedback been? Have people been, comfortable with this? Or people just dying for you to come back on? Or are they kind of comfortable with this kind of in this new reality that the way that you're servicing them now?
That's a great question. There are some people that, I've been here almost 6 years. There are some people that prefer the face-to-face interaction. It always surprises me, for example, to see the people that come to the treasurer's office quarterly to pay cash to pay a tax bill. It's just the way they've been doing it for decades, and that's what they like to do.
Right.
But for a number of people, it's easier. We've been able to modify a lot of our services to accept documents electronically instead of in person. To pay by credit card, we'll take credit cards over the phone. We have a process in place with a confidential roller that if we write the credit card information down on a piece of paper, it blots it so we can't read it. And then we take that piece of paper and we put it in a shredder immediately so we don't retain it. And so it's perfectly safe. I'm comfortable using my credit card that way, so no issues for that. So I think a lot of people prefer this. It's just easier for a lot of people. There are some things face-to-face. We've had to meet people for weddings. Kind of an interesting aside, during the whole COVID issue, a number of the bigger cities like Boston and Worcester stopped issuing marriage intentions. So we issued probably 3 times as many marriage intentions last year as we've done in prior years. And most of them were from people who were not from Southborough. But you can go to any city or town in Massachusetts to get your marriage intention. Doesn't matter where you are. I tell people I was living in Natick when I was married. My wife was living in Newton. We worked in Boston, and we get married at a church in Brookline. So it really doesn't matter. You can go anywhere you want. It just so we just did that to accommodate people. Boston and Worcester were they just shut the doors, and but life goes on. You have to find a way to help people live their lives.
Right.
So it's worked out pretty well for us. So we're gearing up right now, actually, for the town election coming up here on May the 11th. And
so let's talk about that a little bit first before we talk about town meeting. So it's the election's May the 11th.
Yep, and the deadline to request a vote by mail ballot is 5 o'clock tomorrow night. We don't have in-person early voting for this, but on May the 11th, we'll be open the normal hours at the gym at the Trotter School. Everybody in Southborough, regardless of which precinct you live in, votes at the Trotter School, and we'll be open from 6:30 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. We will have the same COVID precautions as we've always had, even though a lot of people have had the vaccinations. We have to be respectful and assume that people could potentially have the virus and not know it. So we have to treat everybody safely. So we do that. The Rotary Club has been wonderful in volunteering to help staff a table to screen people outside to ask the questions the Board of Health requests us to do. And if somebody answers affirmatively to one of those questions, they can still vote. And we have a way for them to vote outside the gym. We've done that. It's worked out well. And then inside the gym, we've using the advice of the Board of Health, we have spread out our spacing and do it in a very safe manner. We clean every workstation after people touch it. We've even gone so far as to modify the doors at the back of the gym to increase the flow of air in the gym. It's very safe. It's very spread out, and it works very well. And same format that we used in November at the election and in September. So that's going to work out pretty well. We have one. Okay.
So you're telling me that even if the people are saying that they've tested positive, they can still vote? You actually get like an outside mechanism. That's great. That's amazing.
Yeah, we do. And again, that was with the benefit of, we've had wonderful advice from the Board of Health. If somebody says they've tested positive, they've been exposed, whatever the reason is, they absolutely have the right to vote. And we have somebody that gowns and masks up, brings them outside. And I treat it, frankly, the same as I would somebody that would be admitted to a medical facility within so many days of the election. Right. And they can vote outside. It's safe, it's accurate, and it guarantees someone's right to vote and then keeps everybody safe.
That's terrific.
It's something we have to be very respectful of, that we're performing this activity in a building while the schools are in session and the children in the building. So we have to be very respectful of that, and we will continue to follow the guidelines that everybody will have to wear a mask when they're inside voting, and and I can't say enough good things about the staff at the Trotter School, how accommodating they have been to us over the years with the election. We're very, very fortunate that the leadership of the Southborough schools has been just And everyone from the custodian to the superintendent, they've just been wonderful to deal with. I can't say enough good things about them.
So that's all good. That's all good. So folks, no matter what, if you can, try to get up there to vote. As Jim said, there isn't early voting, right? So this is the time to go and vote.
Mhm.
And I think as Jim points out, you're just needing to be careful because the kids are still around. Obviously, kids haven't been vaccinated, but they're taking all the precautions that they can in order to make sure that you're comfortable voting. So now can we just talk about the town meeting? I guess
Sure.
The question is, where is it? When is it? How is it all going to work? How does the voting work? Just kind of the soup to nuts, if you could.
Sure. It's going to be virtually the same as how we ran the outdoor town meeting last year. It's going to be held on Saturday, May the 22nd. It'll start at 10 o'clock in the morning, run to 1 o'clock. We'll have a break for lunch from 1 to 2, and we'll resume at 2 o'clock and end at 5 o'clock. It'll be held at the nearest school on the baseball field, adjacent to the school. Physically, it'll look very similar to what people have seen when we've held the town meeting in the Trottier gym, in the Trottier auditorium. We will have 3 sections of seating to be able to seat roughly 300 people. The chairs will be spaced 8 feet apart horizontally and 10 feet vertically, so we're exceeding the guidelines. The corridors are 20 feet wide. It'll look very similar to what people have seen in the auditorium. In the auditorium of the school. A couple of things that'll be interesting when we check in. The voters will be asked the typical questions: your name and your address, to ensure that you're a registered voter, because only registered voters in Southborough are allowed to attend the town meeting. The moderator will allow, for this event, they will allow people to bring children 15 years or younger with them as well, because they may have a babysitting issue and so forth.
Right.
So in addition to those 3 sections we have in the center with about 100 seats per section, we're also going to have a family seating area off to the side where the softball diamond is. And people can bring in lawn chairs, blankets, umbrellas, whatever they'd like, and can sit over there. It's still inside the boundaries of the hall for voting purposes, so they can continue to participate, but if they want to spread out or if that's more comfortable, that's perfectly okay. Bring an umbrella if they want to sit over there, that's great. So when people go to check in, we'll ask the typical questions: are you a voter? Where do you live? Kind of a thing. But as a safety precaution, we're going to follow the advice of the Board of Health from last year. We're going to ask the voter to write their name and their telephone number on a little slip of paper that we'll give to them. It's basically a receipt when you check in. And we ask them to put their name and their phone number on that, and then we just put it in a box and we seal it up. And after 30 days, there are no problems. We just want to ensure, if this, God forbid, this became a super spreader event, we want to have an ability to reach out to people.
I see.
We take those, put them in a box, I seal them up, and after 30 days, I shred them. So last year we had one person was concerned about putting a phone number down. I said, look, you can come to my office in 30 days and I'll let you shred them if you like, but it's going to be sealed up. We put it aside. But something we're going to do a little different for this event, because again, we're going to have a break for lunch and people will leave the hall, so to speak. Maybe go if they want to bring the sandwich, if they want to bring a picnic, if they want to give a bite to go home, whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
We're gonna issue people a red band around their wrist. It's kind of like if you go into a concert or into a bar, they want to prove you're over 21 or something like that. Similar kind of a deal. All the registered voters will get a red band, and all the visitors will get a blue and gold band on their hand. So very simply, that's how you'll check in. If you leave and you want to come back in, you just show the red band. You don't have to go through the process of checking in again, just to make it easier for people. In addition, we'll continue our process that the registered voters will each be given a red cardboard card, and that's what they will raise when the moderator calls for the vote. Okay. So assuming we have good weather, we had a lovely day last year, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed for it this year. It should be very similar. We will have some young high school students helping us that'll be passing out free water throughout the event for people. We'll have a whole series of portalets there, which we will clean continuously throughout the day. We'll have, just in case of an emergency, we'll have a fire department crew with an ambulance there, just in case somebody has a medical emergency. It went very well last year. We have excellent quality audio video system. It'll be recorded by Sam as well for later broadcast. The only difference you'll see at this town meeting versus the one indoors is we won't have the big projection screen that would have indoors. We can't do it because of the outdoor environment.
Right.
And that's it.
And can you talk a little bit about what's going to be on the warrant? You know,
Sure.
Because so and even in terms of kind of when, although obviously the town meeting always has the right to take things out of order, right? I think we're thinking about this as how long things would be taking, when they would think that things would be coming up. If you talk about that a little bit, that'd be great.
Sure. First of all, we're talking about a $55 million budget. So the voters that show up, last year we had 185, I think, registered voters show up. So those 185 people make the determination as to how much money it's going to spend and affect the rest of us on our taxes. So that's the number one issue. There are some a series of CPA articles that will Community Preservation Act monies that will you have the run-of-the-mill ones, but there are two I think that'll garner additional scrutiny this year. One is to spend some money to partially offset the cost to renovate the bell tower at St. Mark's Church. I think there'll be some discussion over that. Another item is to use roughly $2 million out of Community Preservation Act money to do work at the Southborough Townhouse exterior, the roofing and some of the windows and stuff like that. I think that will generate a substantial amount of discussion. There are some zoning issues that I think will generate quite a bit of discussion. One is a zoning article that would discuss outdoor illumination. There's strong proponents and opponents of that, and it'll be interesting to see how the people can bring that out. In addition, there is a.
Can you just speak outdoor illumination? Kind of what does that mean?
Well, it would cover everything from the light bulbs at your home to lights on the side of a building to street lights and all these other things. It would not require, the way I understand it, it would not require retrofitting your home, but if down the road you wanted to change, say, spotlights or something, they would have to conform to new guidelines to reduce light pollution, to reduce light affecting your neighbors and such like that.
I see.
Yeah, and in addition, there are a couple of citizens petitions I think that will generate quite a bit of an interest. One of them is a noise bylaw to limit everything from leaf blowers to lawnmowers to whatever. There is also a citizens petition to reduce plastic waste, basically to ban plastic bags. But I've been told by the proponent that he intends to move to indefinitely postpone and not address that at this particular town meeting. There are a number of other changes to the town code. There's a couple that I've asked to bring forward. One of them is just a very simple thing that the state regulations require a town meeting to be held in the town we live unless there's another provision for it. And very simply, I'm asking to change the town code to give the town the option to hold the town meeting in a contiguous town in case of an emergency. For example, let's say that we had a flood at the Trottier gym. We could hold the meeting in Northborough at the regional high school. Just a simple thing like that. I'm also asking for a change to adopt a Mass General law that if we have a voter registration deadline that falls on a Saturday, which occasionally happens, and we have to be here till 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. No one has ever come here on a Saturday for this. And if we adopt this, it just moves the deadline to Monday. So nobody loses anything. It's one of these little fixes a little glitch.
Housekeeping. It's
exactly.
Yes.
Right. And there are a number of other issues, but from the way I read the articles, those are going to be those will be issues that I think that'll generate quite a bit of attention.
And from your observations, kind of walking into this, first of all, as far as the budget is concerned, is there something in the budget that, the budget, as you say, it's a lot of money, but inside that budget, typically there are, people will always say, oh, Jesus, they did 50 million was no argument at all, and they argued over 1,000. So is there something, right? It just happens, right? It just happens. So is there something that you've heard that it could be as especially, contentious in the budget itself?
Yes, but I'm laughing because last month I had to go back and review old town meetings going back to the 50s. And there was a substantial discussion about getting another adding machine for the treasurer's office in the 1950s. And I think the debate took about an hour.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. Well, there is an unusual event this year that the Board of Health is seeking to increase their budget, and the advisory committee and the selectmen disagree with it. But because the Board of Health is an elected board, the budget that is printed in the warrant is the budget that they have proposed. So that will definitely generate quite a bit of discussion, and not just because there are differences about what the budget should be, but certainly because we're living in this COVID era, and the Board of Health is front and center in all of our discussions every day. So that's a budget that typically would just, like I say, just would be no discussion, but that will be quite a bit of discussion this year.
And that it's so funny because that's kind of across the board, right? Every community, you would always say the Board of Health. What do they do exactly?
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, it's like people are distinctly aware of the Board of Health, and the kind of the ongoing role that they may be playing. And I think in many ways, I think that's a really positive thing. I think people are, the notion of people are, like with so many services, people are so conscious about dealing with their own doctor and their private health. And really only with COVID now, I've come to really appreciate that, it's all about the health of the community, right?
Yes.
We're all healthy together. If we're not all healthy, we're all at risk. So
yes.
So you can see there's a possible for. So give me your sense, once again, if I'm Frank and Mary and I'm like, should I go to this? How long do you think? Are you thinking that this is an all-day meeting? Are you thinking that this is probably going to continue after the lunch and stuff?
I do, yes. And it's interesting you say that because I've, like I said, I've been around, I'll be here just about 6 years this month. And I visited many other towns to attend other town meetings just to see how other people run them. And towns have a certain personality. I can't explain why it is so, but some towns will go through a town meeting with 32 articles in 2 hours. They blast it right through. Others, they slog through it in multiple days. And Southborough tends to be in the slogging category. We tend to take a lot of time to chew on things. But I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's the way it is.
It's in the nature of things. I remember, well, once again, in the nature of my work, when I was younger, I did a lot more permitting related work. And therefore I would find myself showing up at town meetings in a lot of towns. And I still remember going, the first time I went to the Berlin town meeting. So this is Berlin, right? How many people live? Like nobody lives in Berlin. And this was, 10, 15 years ago. And everybody was there. I felt like everybody was there. There were like 300 people. And it wasn't like there was a lot of, and they were talking, and I talked to folks afterwards because they said, there are several people that, inevitably develop a reputation at town meeting. Oh, they always talk, But at the folks there, they said, well, they always talk, but we're always interested in what they have to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a kind of I just marveled at it, that there was this real sense of courtesy.
Yes.
And of kind of that's the nature of town meeting. And I've always told folks, I said, that's the reason why from the legislative perspective, I know from looking at court decisions and stuff regarding town meetings, courts are very loath to overturn anything that happens at a town meeting because they feel that everybody's there. I mean, that's democracy in action. So when could things be more clean than there, as opposed to when there's more representative stuff, there's more kind of, well, we want to make sure you do all the procedural things because we don't want to make sure nothing gets slipped in or nothing that, So it's really a wonderful thing. So I guess, so I really appreciate your coming on. I know my good friend Doug Peck, who could not be here. Doug and I, we look old, but we actually have day jobs, and every once in a while our day job gets us, right? And his day job intervened today, But we were talking about that and just about kind of the culture of Southborough that really is participatory, which is probably why you get a big charge out of being here, right?
Yeah, it's interesting, and my job is to not just to record everything accurately and partially, but I think a lot of my job is to encourage and empower people to attend. And one thing I wanted to mention of significance to this, for the folks that maybe aren't familiar with where this will be held at the Neary baseball field, we are going to have parking for anybody that may have a handicap pass, which will bring them right up against the gate. Very, very short walk to get onto the ball field. It's not like you have to park. Most people, if you think I have to park at Neary and walk that far, no, we're going to use with the bus turnarounds, and we'll have police officers direct everybody for a very, very short walk. So we're making that very, very smooth and easy for people to get in. You asked a question earlier about how I thought when articles would come in terms of the break and things like that.
Right.
A couple of years ago in Southborough, we passed a bylaw that gave the moderator the right to consolidate a number of articles for one vote and consider them all for one vote. And these tend to be non-controversial issues. The moderator has not come up with that list just yet, but that's certainly, we have 39 articles, or 35 or 39 articles, I think, on the
warrant.
On the warrant right now. And if I'm a betting man, I'm going to say 10 of those roughly will just, they're perfunctory. They're people that's, there's no discussion. Excuse me, and anybody who disagrees with that could have one of them to be held for further discussion. So you're going to lose at least a third of it right off the top. Right. The budget will be discussed as the fifth item, the seventh item. That'll come up certainly before the lunch. Yeah. Depends how long the Board of Health issue is going to come into play. Generally, they bring the financial issues early on. Yeah. If I'm a betting man, I'm going to say all the financial issues will be done before lunch, and then the CPA articles will come in after lunch. A few of them might make it before lunch, some of them afterwards. Again, something in this town compared to others, it is unusual for the moderator or for the hall to vote to allow an item to be considered out of order. It's interesting because some towns down the Cape have I personally prefer this the way they do it down the Cape. They have a bingo machine, a bingo cage, I guess you call it.
Oh,
in
the first balls?
They do, yep.
And they pick the order?
They do. The first one is number one is one, and then you spin the ball. And, I like that. And I like that because the selectman's office in Southborough is responsible for putting the warrant together. Yep. Not just the warrant, but the order of the articles. Yep. And they tend to, they do the financial issues up front. Yep. Then they tend to do the CPA articles. Then they do some code issues. And then the citizens petitions are at the end. Now, as somebody who, as a citizen, has brought 2 citizens petitions at town meeting, both which were overwhelmingly supported, my own gut reaction is that citizens petition is a marvelous tool of democracy. I liken it to sort of like being the pressure relief valve on a tea kettle. Right. When people feel significant that your government's not doing what needs to be done, this is a way to resolve something. I think citizens petitions deserve a better place than the tail end of the article. And the zoning codes are typically in Southborough, the tradition is put them at the end, and that's when the hall is tired. And they tend not to give a lot of credence. So I like the way some of these towns do this with the bingo ball, because.
So I think that should be the one that you propose for the next town meeting.
I'm thinking about it. I'm giving a lot of thought of it.
I think that's a great idea. So Jim, thank you so much for doing this. I think Doug, because his day job had intervened, we're going to postpone, but this is really important. This is, the time meeting is coming right up.
Right.
But folks, once again, the bottom line is, folks, Jim and the whole staff, they've really prepared this to make it easy for you, right? Easy for you. Even if you have a little trouble walking, you should, if you have any reason, you ought to go. And it's kind of a good time, right? Yep. And you get to see some people that you probably haven't seen, and it's going to be outdoors. So, and once again, this is on Saturday, May
22.
May 22, and it's going to be, and it starts at
10 a.m.
It starts at 10 a.m. People can sign up ahead of time, but you're figuring the gavel's going to drop at 10 a.m. to start.
Yep, we'll start admitting people at 8:30.
Great. So thank you so much, folks. Hope you enjoy this presentation. This is the point of this show, is to keep you in touch about just these things. So Jim, we really, really appreciate your coming on. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Have a good day. Bye-bye.